From the Hill, Hillary Clinton, the Supreme Court will do to gay marriage what they did to abortion. That might actually happen.
Fact check true, Hillary Clinton.
Hopefully.
Damn.
2016 Democrat presidential nominee and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says she believes the Supreme Court is poised to overturn its landmark ruling in Obergefell versus Hodge, which effectively legalized same-sex marriage nationwide, and that unmarried same-sex couples ought to consider tying the knot. American voters, and to some extent the American media, don't understand how many years the Republicans have been working in order to get us to this point, Clinton told Fox News host Jessica Tarlov on Friday in a wide-ranging interview on Raging Moderates, the podcast Tarlov co-hosts with Scott Galloway. Neither of those people are moderates. It took 50 years to overturn Roe v. Wade, Clinton said. The Supreme Court will hear a case about gay marriage. My prediction is they will do to gay marriage what they did to abortion. They will send it back to the states. Look, it did take 50 years to overturn Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade was a terribly decided decision. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that it was a bad decision. Mm-hmm. And the Republicans still did it the right way. And this goes to our point earlier about the way that Democrats will exercise power versus the Republicans. Republicans and the libertarians are generally pretty guilty of this as well. They will do the thing that they're supposed to do and go through the process in order to get the result that they want. 50 years, they worked and finally got it back in front of the SCOTUS when the SCOTUS had the makeup in a way that they would find in favor of putting abortion in the state's hands. They didn't even get them to say abortion must be illegal nationwide. All they did was say, we want it, you put it back in the state's hands. That took them forever because the Republicans will do that. The Democrats have no compunction with just grabbing power in any means necessary. And I personally think that the Republicans should behave in a similar fashion now. And I understand that you have apprehension, or this is, there's apprehensions that you have, and they're legitimate.
It's not exactly apprehensions. It's just understanding like cause and effect. Like I don't want to be blind to the potential backlash that's going to come here. Go on.
I think that this is the example that or the reason I bring this example up is because it's not actually a cause and effect. The cause that you're saying isn't what's going to make Democrats do this. Democrats are going to do this because they don't care about process. They don't care about anything other than amassing power and keeping it.
It's a fascinating conversation to have because I feel like Democrats would argue the same thing of Republicans. A larger point, I think,
Democrats argue that men can become women.
I agree with you. It's a very dumb argument that many of them make, and I obviously think they're very wrong. One thing I wanted to point out here, though, is like a reason that this is even a possibility is because there is a conservative majority on the Supreme Court right now. Why is there a majority on the Supreme Court right now? I know a lot of us might not like to talk about it. Because Mitch McConnell actually very skillfully allowed this majority to happen. And one of the big points that Democrats actually harp on about and complain about the Supreme Court being illegitimate on is that they held the seat open that was originally going to go to Merrick Garland during the end of the Obama administration. But instead, he didn't hold a vote on that seat. And eventually, Trump won the election. And then he filled the seat with Neil Gorsuch, who was able to be confirmed through the Mitch McConnell-led Senate. So all of this is really coming to fruition because of that. But Democrats, again, would argue that they need to pack the Supreme Court because Mitch McConnell did that, and Neil Gorsuch's appointment was illegitimate because they held that spot open during the end of the Obama term. So all of that's to say is that, depending on which party you're from, you could point to different things and try to argue that things are legitimate or illegitimate. I also want to say I think it's a fascinating political strategy by the Trump administration too. But you're overturning these laws, but you're not setting them, and you're letting the states decide instead. So they overturned Roe v. Wade, but they didn't decide to make abortion illegal across the country. And they're going to follow that same blueprint here. So it seems with gay marriage. And again, I think attitudes are changing surrounding gay marriage, but more than anything, this is a pushback against the excesses of the LGBTQ community. Yeah. This is a pushback in regards to drag queen story hours, to the trans issues. People are just saying this has gone way too far, and this is ultimately the results. Even though I don't think that many people have a problem with gay marriage, I think gay marriage should be a religious institution, but we're far off from that. I know I just said a lot. Do either of you have any thoughts?
I mean, I think Obergefell, if you're frustrated with the transgender ideology, if you're frustrated with drag queen story hour, you can't just ratchet back the LGBT movement to an earlier stage and not expect the same result. Because with Obergefell, what happened is in the eyes of the state, gender became interchangeable. Because prior to that, marriage was a man and a woman. Obergefell, gay marriage becomes the standard, becomes the view in the government's eyes now that you can swap a male out for a female and it's still a marriage. So the transgender movement started when this happened, because that's when, in the eyes of the state, gender became interchangeable and it was, men, women, who cares? Just hot.
I don't know if there's a gay consensus on the trans issue. I'm sure there are many older gays who believe, is that the right way to call them?
Sure.
Queer older gays?
Queer is an identity. They're just gays.
Older gay men who, came up when they were younger and fought for their right to get married, and now see the excesses of the left, and now they see people become more frustrated with their community, might hold resentment towards some of these ultra progressives or ultra gays, who go further in the LGBTQIA direction.
It's great that they have their critiques, but if they don't. If they see that as an excess, it's like, well, you only have yourself to blame. Like you can't let a little bit in and not expect to get the whole package. So it's like, if you
didn't gatekeep hard enough.
It's not even, you can't gatekeep an ideology. It's either you have it or you don't. Like I said, you can't just ratchet it back to an earlier stage and not expect a similar result. It's like, and then in this case, it only took them 10 years to get to where we're at now. I mean, they just put their foot on the gas. So, I mean, rightfully Americans, even if they haven't thought about the philosophical implications of gender becoming interchangeable in the eyes of the state, still, the average American has the right now to be skeptical of anything the LGBT community wants to do, because you're saying, well, you guys blew it. You did 15 years, and now there's drag queen story hours and transgender nonsense.
Kevin, do you have any trans characters in any of your upcoming movies?
None that I'm aware of. If they are, they're pretty damn good at what they're looking at. I mean,
but the characters are based around that.
But no, not really. I mean, I have no problem with it. Look, almost every movie I've ever been on, every television show I've ever worked on, there's been somebody gay or lesbian on the set. I don't care. I personally don't care what people do with their lives in terms of their sexual lives or whatever like that. I think what you mentioned with the religious world, I mean, the marriage comes from the Bible between a man and a woman. That's what it is. So to me, if you want to appease sort of the religious crowd, just, get married, but call it something else. Call it a union. I don't care. Get the same rights, get the same tax benefits. I have no problem with that. That's what I mean. Just by being a conservative myself and being a Christian, am I perfect in any of those things? Not at all. But I get attacked all the time on the internet saying I'm this and that and the other. And go, where's your proof? Find one gay person. I've been in the business 45 years. I've worked with gay people for 5 decades. Find one that says he was so mean to me on the set. He was rude. He was an a-hole. I mean, all this. You won't find one. Mm-hmm. But they love their labels. They love their attack. They love to just go after, and they have no proof behind it whatsoever. I could care less. But once again, just, it's just constant. The power the alphabet crowd has to just sit there and force all this stuff down, saying this is normal now, this is normal now. Do what you want to do, but don't sit there and try to change the definition of things. I mean, we used to call somebody that is, that has changed their sex, we used to say, well, that's mental illness. Sure. Now we're supposed to just accept that as normal. It isn't normal.
Do you believe that the overturning of Obergefell would be an excessive backlash from conservatives?
I don't know. I mean, to me, you're looking at this. I look at Chuck Schumer. I got to say this for a second because I got a big kick out of him saying we got to make these 20 million. I don't know how many millions came across. I heard 10 million, 15 million, 20 million came across during Biden's term. So you hear all this, we have to make them all legal right now because we got to replenish our workforce. And I said, well, you got rid of the workforce with Roe v. Wade. You killed 65 million human lives. I do a lot of pro-life speaking. It's a human life. There's a heartbeat of 22 days. Yep. So that's 65 million. How many more millions would have been born out of those people born in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? We've probably got rid of 100 million people in this country.
25% of Gen Z, not to get cited, but
it's
25% of Gen Z was aborted. I mean, that's your labor crisis right there.
It's unbelievable what they've done. And these would have been educated people coming into the country, not people that were coming from poor countries with worse education we got coming in here. They're not going to be the ones filling up the workforce in a positive way with engineers and everything like that. And we're changing the face of this country so quickly right now.
Well, there's just clearly, like you said, it's a border. It feels anti-human what's happening. This restructuring of our country at every level, from our culture to our institutions to everything. And like, I mean, that's kind of the same thing what we're talking about here is like the Obergefell was is a shot fired by these anti-human people because they want to get the government to redefine what gender is. That was the idea, is they want men and women to be interchangeable and means nothing, because that's the point of liberalism. Liberalism is blank slate theory, and what is more restrictive than having a gender? Because that defines a lot of your characteristics.
So this is actually something that I've actually had a disagreement with Mary on. I don't think that gender is even a real thing, right? Like your biological sex is so but it matters. It matters because when you ask someone what is gender, it's essentially the way that they describe it. It's your sexual spirit, right? And so, and the reason that like I said, Mary and I have a disagreement because she believes that human beings have a spirit, have a soul, and that the soul is gendered. I, as an agnostic, don't really have that same sense. And I think that your sex, your biological sex, is the only thing that matters. Your gender doesn't matter. And as long as if your biological sex is the deciding factor, then all this gender nonsense can be disregarded. And it's fine because their gender is interchangeable or gender can be changed. That is all just an innovation in the past, 50, 60 years. And if we had a government that said, no, your sex is what's important, and we don't even address gender, then you can actually get around all the stuff that you're talking about, because you have a great point. You're totally right. The way that the LGBTQIA groups have made people understand or convinced people to understand this innovation called gender is that it is something that isn't actually tied to your body. It's not tied to your biology, and that's wrong. There are anomalies. There are people that are less masculine and more masculine, that are men, and there are women that are more masculine and less masculine. But by and large, men are far more masculine than women. Oh. Women have certain traits that generally apply to women, and men have certain traits that generally apply to men. And it is enough where you can safely say, this is how men are, this is how women are. And of course there's some anomalies, but without the idea of gender, without the innovation of gender, you actually circumvent all that stuff.
Well, I mean, I think gender is one-to-one with sex. I mean, broadly speaking, it directly correlates. But I mean, obviously, if you're agnostic, then I think at that point you should just view them like synonyms effectively. Or just like you said, disregard gender entirely.
But when you talk,
I could have said sex for my entire rant, and my point would have been the same.
But when you talk to the crits, right, the gender crits, the critical gender theorists,
sure,
you take away the whole foundation of all of their theory when you don't acknowledge gender.
Yeah, I mean, like...
And I understand what you're saying, but they don't look at it the same way you do. They look at gender as different. They think that gender changes. That's why you get people that say, well, right now my gender feels this way, but in 2 hours after I have a meal, my gender might be different.
Sure.
And that comes from the idea...
That's interesting.
That comes from the idea that gender is something that is more akin to a spirit than something that is tied to your biology. And we should abandon that idea.
I mean, that's totally fair. I mean, like, for my entire rant I had earlier, I could have just said sex instead, and it would have been the exact same point I'm trying to make. All I'm trying to say is if you have frustration with the drag queens, with the transgenders, this has to go. Obergefell has to go. And you need the state to reorient around men and women as separate entities and respect those differences instead of just trying to turn us into blank slates.
Kevin, I wanted to ask, there's a narrative that Hollywood advances a lot of the so-called LGBTQIA agenda.
Sure.
As someone who's in the space, can you confirm or deny how true that is? Or, are these just groups of people working together? Have you heard that stuff? What do you make of it?
This really this is new to me over the last 10 years maybe or something like that. Hollywood booted me out. I'm the first cancel culture victim before it became a term. Manager and agent said, because of things you're posting on the internet, about COVID and things. I was posting the truth, of course. I got blacklisted from Hollywood. Wow. That's why my wife and I formed Sorbo Studios. We're doing our own movies, independent movies. And I do movies that Hollywood used to do. They're not necessarily faith-based. I think every movie's a faith-based. If you're an atheist, that's a pretty strong faith. To believe in absolutely nothing is a really strong faith. Yeah. So to me, it's like I want to do movies that have hope and love and redemption in it. It doesn't have to be you better believe in God. I just want to do nice movies that Hollywood used to do instead of the woke insanity they're doing. I mean, I think over $1 billion is what Disney's looking at this year as a loss. So to me, I was well aware of, I mean, it's the conservatives that are in the closet now. The gays are fully out of the closet in Hollywood.
Feels like the conservatives are out of the closet too nowadays.
Not in Hollywood. You'd be surprised. I mean, every movie I've been doing the last 6-7 years, I'll get another actor, I'll get a hair person, a director, a film, a light guy come up to me quietly like we're doing a drug deal and say, hey, thanks for being a voice for us. And I go, be a voice for yourself. Well, I'll get blacklisted like you. And it has hurt people's careers. I know a number of big name actors that are conservative. I'm not going to name them because they said, well, I don't want to happen to me what happened to you. But I said, look, I'm still making movies. Hollywood doesn't call me anymore. I've always found it childish. Who cares? I don't get angry if someone's gay. I don't get angry if someone's a liberal. I don't. Be what you want to be. But they have the power in Hollywood, so they do no longer let me read for any movies or any TV shows. I got to find my own independent projects. And to me, they're like 7th grade Mean Girls. It's so immature and so childish that they don't work with me just because I happen to be a conservative. It's weird to me. But the parties have shifted. I tell my liberal friends, look at JFK's inauguration speech in 1916. Find one Democrat who talks that way today. You won't find it.
Even as recently as Bill Clinton, I feel like he would be a conservative nowadays.
Look, the second time around, I voted for Clinton the second time around. I didn't the first time around. I mean, he won. It was the lowest anybody's ever won a percentage, right?
Yeah,
38% or something.
Perot was involved.
Because Ross was in there, yeah. But I thought, you know what? The guy did a good job. And I voted for him. I wouldn't vote for Hillary. that was like, she's on the devil's lap. He's laughing. You know?
Well, I mean, it was even the 2008 Democrat nomination where they were accusing each other of being pro-gay marriage, which was which is hilarious. I mean, that just shows you how quickly this evolved specifically, but how quickly Democrats radicalized within 15, 20 years. Yeah. I mean, Republicans... There's all these they showed these like graphs where it's like, look at the polarization. The Democrats went this way and the Republicans went this way. And I'm like, the Republicans are just tracking back to how they were in the 90s. I mean, the average Republican, if you see how an average Republican
it's all shifted to the left.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the average Republican in 1992. I mean, Pat Buchanan was a formidable candidate in presidential elections, and he was fantastic. And he outflanks every Republican to the right right now. And this is supposedly the most radical Republican Party in history. It's like, well. 1992. I mean, look at like Pat Buchanan, who's a genius, by the way.
The idea that the Republican Party right now is the most radical ever is absolutely ridiculous. If you look at the way that Republicans or the way that anyone talked prior to World War II, that just, I mean, essentially, it would make today's Democrats and a lot of today's Republicans just, shiver in fear and say, you can't say that, you can't say that, you can't say that. Things like talking about race the way that they used to talk about race, absolutely not.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.